Hello and welcome to Rule 3's video review for Evolve, a 4v1 arena shooter from Turtle Rock. So these are the guys that did Left 4 Dead, and this is the big 4v1 game that everybody's been waiting for. Personally, I'm not really big into multiplayer-only first-person shooters, especially where ones are co-op to some extent, because I don't like talking to people online. It's just a personal preference, but you know, I do like the idea of Evolve, of the 4 hunters versus 1 monster, so I was willing to give it a shot, and I was pleasantly surprised, but it's not a game that's going to really change, I think, people's opinions if they're not into shooters.
They are likely not native
monsters. We're hunting monsters.
So the story of Evolve is that you're going to a planet called Skrev, which is a new colony for humans, and it is overrun by unknown monsters. The government basically sends in a team of hunters to basically evacuate the colony, not kill the monsters, just defend the colony so they can get as many people out as possible. This is kind of a suicide mission. They know it, so it's up to the hunters to do various tasks to save the colonists and evacuate as many people as possible. Story's not a big factor in this game. There is one mode called Evacuate that kind of has its own little storyline that you build. I'll talk about more Evacuate later, but on the whole, the story is pretty much non-existent. It's just there to once again give a reason for why these hunters are on this planet fighting these monsters, and honestly, it's presented at least somewhat decently at the very beginning. So I gotta give them credit for at least putting in a reason and story to this game, because I didn't think there would be one.
There are eggs everywhere, and a creature is killing our wildlife. If anyone can help us, please.
Gameplay is very, very complicated, which is good for this kind of shooter. So like I said earlier, and everybody should know, this is a 4v1 arena shooter. You're going to load up a map, and a team of 4 people made up of an assault, support, medic, and trapper. Each of those classes have their own abilities. They're going to be hunting 1 monster. This monster can either be Goliath, Kraken, or Wraith. Those 3 classes once again also vary in play style, so I'm going to kind of go over how the classes different work. So Assault are the damage dealers. These are your heavy hitters. I should have mentioned this. Each class has basically three kind of sub-classes in them. They're all still Assault, but they each have different weapons and secondaries and stuff, but they all have one ability in common. For the Assault, that is the Combat Shield. You can basically shield up and absorb as much damage as possible. It's really cool. But each one has basically a very big gun, another big gun, and I forget the third. But it's basically, the damage dealer. It's going to be the class that you're going to bring, and that person is going to be trying to do as much damage as possible. Trapper, which is the class I really like to play, is mostly a support class as well. Trapper's idea is all about control of fighting the monster. They have all trappers share what's called the portable arena. You throw it, it creates a little dome, and nobody can get out, including the monster. So this forces an encounter. They also have different harpoons, tracking devices to track and slow down the monster, as well as like a submachine gun that does some damage. But basically, you're going to be controlling the field by slowing the monster down and making it so that it can't move as much. And if it does, one of the subclasses has a tracking dart, and you can track it. And it's all about finding the monster. I really like Trapper just because, like I said, it's not a heavy damage dealing, but it's more of controlling the monster as best as you can. Support is the support class. Basically, you're going to be helping your teammates out with buffs, defense buffs, attack buffs, and other various types of things. And they also have a decent amount of damage with their gun, but you're basically just be shielding and making sure your team doesn't die. Whatever the monster's attacking or whoever's attacking gets the buffs that the support class gets. And the last one's Medic, which is the obvious one. They're the healers of the team. They all have healing abilities. They also have the ability to weaken the monster by getting rid of armor, creating soft spots, and kind of just making it so everybody else can do more damage to it. I like being on the hunter side of things versus the monster side, mostly because the multiplayer games I did play, I try not to talk to everybody, I try not to talk to people, but coordination and teamwork is very important, and I really enjoyed that about the hunter side of things. Now going to the monster, the Goliath is basically a giant running melee tank. You basically just want to get in and start punching things. They have a lot of armor, a lot of health, but are a little bit slower. Kraken are aerial. Once again, they're not quite as strong as the Goliath, but they're able to kind of get up high and just rain death from above, and from ranged, which is more of their specialty, is keeping things at range and just trying to fire. They're okay. I did enjoy playing the Kraken the one time I did. And the last one is the Wraith, which is the assassin type. So they don't have a lot of armor or a lot of health, but they can nuke like no other. They're very mobile. They're basically hit and run tactics. So you go in, hit, and then they also have a mechanic that allows them to stealth and send out a decoy, which is very useful in hunt mode. I'll get the different modes later. But it allows you to basically just stealth and run while you try to evolve, which is the main thing for monsters. Unlike the players, the 4 hunters, the monsters need to evolve. They do this by hunting down the wildlife and consuming them. Once you consume enough, you will level up. Level 1 is basically if you get caught by the hunters, you're going to die. Or at least, have the lowest chance of survival. Rank 2 is basically you're put onto kind of an even ground, in my opinion. That's probably the most even ground you ever get. But you're still not in a really good advantage spot. Level 3 is when you're basically able to take them on head on and have, pretty much almost have a guaranteed chance of winning. Especially if you're playing Wraith or Kraken in my experience. Goliath, I seem to have the most, when I was playing multiplayer, the most even odds against at level 3. But Wraith and Kraken, I don't know what the heck happened, but they just destroy things at level 3. And that's why obviously games like Call Evolves and these monsters evolve. So you want to find these monsters and kill them as quickly as possible. Depending on the game mode. So there are multiple types of game modes in this game. Let's go over the individuals and then I'll go over Evacuate. Hunt is the basic mode where it's, hunt down the monster, kill it as quickly as possible before it evolves to level 3 and destroys a power generator or wipes out the entire team. This is the most basic one. It's, in my opinion, probably not the most enjoyable, but it's the most, basic. It's probably the best for practice. Evacuate, or not Evacuate, Rescue. Basically, it's going to summon a bunch of survivors on this planet. The hunter's job is to grab these survivors and bring them to an evacuation point before the monster can kill them. It's first to 5. There's 10 total, there's 9 total. So basically, if the hunters get 5, they win. If the monster gets 5, he wins. And I really like this mode because it puts the monster on more of an offense position, where the hunters have to go on more of a defense, whereas Hunt, it's the opposite, where the monster starts in defense, hunter's on offense. This was probably my favorite mode in the game, just because it was flipped. So if you were playing the monster, you had to be a little bit more aggressive than in the other modes. The next one is called Nest. Nest is, there's a bunch of eggs on the arena, and the hunters need to destroy all the eggs. The monster has to find these eggs and hatch them to create minions. If he creates a minion, the hunters have to still kill it to get the full kill count. It's not just kill the eggs, it's kill the eggs and minions. This kind of is a nice little play between offense and defense, because you want to destroy as many eggs as possible, but also don't let the monster get to them so he can hatch them. So you also want to hunt the monster to make sure that he's not going for eggs. So it's a nice little kind of tug-of-war mode. I really enjoy that one as well. Defend is basically you have different points that the hunters have to defend. The monster's going to have a wave of ads that he can send, as well as be able to attack. If the hunters are able to survive or kill the monster, they win. If the monster is able to basically get to the main camp and destroy the ship, he wins.
Get up, Hank.
And I think that's all the modes. All of them are, like I said, other than Hunt, which I think is the most boring, I really enjoyed the other game modes a little bit more so. just because they're a little different and it's not just a straight up, hide and seek, which is my biggest problem I think with hunt mode, is it's hide and seek for the most part for the most of the game. The other modes you kind of have to play a little bit more of a offense defense game, but hunt was just purely hide and go seek. The monster would go somewhere, hide, feed, and then run off again. The hunters would have to try their best to find him and hopefully kind of figure out a path that they might be playing. If not, it takes forever to get into combat. It's very slow and is the most tedious in my opinion. Unless you're playing the monster, then hunt is a little better because you're constantly trying to hide and eat. But if you're playing hunter, it is really boring in my opinion. As you play the game, you'll level up. Each class has a mastery system. You have to, in order to unlock all the characters in each class, you have to play the opening character and master the first set, and then you unlock a character, then you play that character, unlock their first set to unlock the other character. There's 3 tiers of unlocks for each character, upgrading their abilities. There's also the player level, which unlocks monster and hunter universal traits. You can choose one per game. My problem with any type of advanced system like this is people who've been playing longer have a bigger advantage, especially in this game, because all the perks in this game are the same. So from I think it's 1 to 12, and then, or no, it's 40 levels, 5 by 3, so closer to about once every 10 or so. It unlocks a new rank, and there's 3 ranks. So people who've been playing a long time have rank 3 of all these abilities versus a new person who might only have rank 1. So on a hunter team, it's not, if all the hunters have been playing longer than the monster, they're going to have a better, advantage. And same with the monster. If the monster's been playing longer and he has access to better abilities than the hunters, he's going to have an advantage. And I hate these unlock systems that work like that. Because in general, I don't like unlock system. And in this game, it takes a long time to unlock stuff. Alright, and the last thing I want to talk about is going back to game modes is the evacuation mode, which is the closest to kind of a campaign mode this game has. And I really, really liked this mode. So it basically, it's a team of 4 in the monster like usual, but you choose a map, and each map will have basically an objective, whether it's nest, hunts, rescue, defend, whatever it is. And depending on the outcome of that match, it will affect the next match in some way. If the monster wins, the monster is going to get some type of advantage in the next map. If the hunters win, they're going to get some type of advantage in the next map. It does auto-balance a little bit, giving the monster or the hunters a little bit more health or damage, depending on who's further ahead. And it's a best of 5. And I really enjoy this mode just because it's, various modes. There's a little bit more strategy to it, and there's actual consequences for winning or losing a match. And it was a lot of fun doing. I did a one on solo, which I recommend solo mode. There is a solo mode when you first start to level up, to unlock stuff, which is the nice thing before you go into multiplayer. That's just a suggestion of mine. Unless you want to jump straight into multiplayer, then do that. But evacuation gives you the most experience points for both sides, and like I said, that was probably the most fun I had, was doing the 3 or 4 evacuation multiplayers I did in solo. But other than that, there's not a whole lot else to this. But I think Turtle Walk did a good job of making various game modes and having, like I said, evacuation I think is one of the best things about this game. Just because it changes things up and has kind of a slight story and stuff like that.
Hey, Maggie, when you bought Daisy, what did you think you'd be using her for?
Not this.
That's what I figured.
Factor was a rough colony, violent. Once I had Ruva here, no one wanted to mess with me.
So Evolve is a very solid game. It's a very good 4v1 shooter if you're into those sorts of things. Personally, like I said, I'm not, and this game's not going to change my mind. I did enjoy it a little bit more than I thought it would, especially on the multiplayer front. I'm just also glad that there was a solo mode to level up. So if you're really into shooters and really want a good 4v1 shooter or co-op shooter, or just be the monster and own things shooter, Evolve is really, really good. I suggest you go out and get the game. It is very fun. However, if you're like me, this isn't going to change your mind so much. Overall, I'm going to give the game a rent verdict. It is a very, very good game, but once again, once you play this game for a while, it's going to get kind of boring, and the unlock system just takes too long, and it has kind of a huge curve because of that. So I would only suggest this if you're in like really hardcore into shooters. Otherwise, you know, give it a shot. You know, if you want to, I would give it a try or buy it cheaper. And that's it for this review. I just want to also mention for this review, the fact that there's $100 of DLC did not affect my decision on this. It's all cosmetic that I know of, other than the stuff that you get from the season pass. This is a big controversy with Evolve. I did an article on DLC, and Evolve was brought up on this. But I'm just kind of disclaiming the DLC had nothing to do with the verdict of this game. I think it's a solid game without the DLC, and, you know, I think rent is the best overall verdict for this game versus a buy. Because I don't think this game's right for everybody. So anyway, check out rule3.com for all our latest videos, news, articles, and hopefully by the end of next month we're going to have a couple Let's Plays going. Like us on Facebook and Twitter, subscribe to our channel above, and until next time... Oh, the next review, by the way, is going to be Dragon Ball Xenoverse, as long as I get it. And I'm going to try my best to get it, because I really want to play that game. So anyway, thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, always remember to trust in the rule of 3.